class recorded. So yes, we have started recording now. And so, yes, you can come back to this later if you'd like to. I will put this up on our private Facebook page. And so it should be available to anybody that is a part of Coldwell Banker.
Trevor, I have a quick question for you.
Okay.
In zip forms, they have some really nice videos, so tutorials and stuff, and they cover a lot of that. Have you looked through some of those, and do you find them beneficial or really good?
I find them very beneficial. In fact, that was part of what today I was going to show a clip from one of those videos, just because they explain it so well. I was going to show that, but then actually go into zip forms and show you how I've created a template and some of the forms that I pulled in. So kind of the example is always the video, right? But then the reality is whoever made that video, often from zip forms, they don't have our MLS. So they don't have the exact forms that we would use. So they may not pull in the exact forms that we would choose to pull into a template. So that's why I was going to try to give you some real life scenarios, or give you an example of what I've done for both listings and purchases. And some tips and tricks too within zip forms as far as filling out those forms.
Good deal.
So let's start, Dawn, with your first question of DocuSign versus eSign. I have not used, I should back up. I did use eSign just because it was free initially when I got zip forms. But I found that the most user-friendly and actually the most costly is DocuSign. The reason being is DocuSign also obviously can be used outside of zip forms. But what I found too is with the zip forms, and I've just used it for years, so maybe I'm a little bit biased because that's what I'm used to, right? You get used to a tool and it's like, if I change now, then I've got to relearn a whole new tool. But I found that what I like about it is that when you're filling out, say, a sale agreement, let me give you an example, actually. I'll share my screen here. I'll go into my zip forms here. I'm going to share this. Can everybody see my login for zip forms?
Yeah.
Okay. So once you sign in to zip forms, I'll just create an example. Let's create a new listing or transaction, sorry. Find that MLS number real quick. Gotta move some of these things.
Hannah, while he's doing that, if you wind up going off without saying bye, good luck at your listing.
Oh, thanks. It's actually showings, but hopefully he writes something. So thank you. I appreciate it. And you guys enjoy your day. It's sunny outside. So
it's beautiful.
You as well.
Thank you.
All right. So everybody's seeing what I'm seeing right here, where we're choosing. Has everybody done this before, where you choose a listing and have it auto-populate from the MLS?
I just started that today, seeing how to do it, was playing with it.
So you can go into RMLS. You basically, once you get into this, you can choose your MLS, which if you have it connected correctly, there's a way and a process by which you get your MLS connected to your, and your user ID connected to zip forms, so that then it can pull in the information from your MLS into the documents. And that basically, again, it's a time saver. In this instance, I pull directly from RMLS, which is the Portland area one. I don't use Flex, but you put in your MLS ID, you can accrue the property photo, and then once you click find, it will actually pull in that information not only the information about the property, but it'll also pull in the information about the agent. If it'll populate it quickly enough. Of course, technology is making us sit and listen or sit and wait. Go out, make sure that this is a. There we go. It did pull in a property. There we go. Okay. So now that it's pulled that property in, I can use this listing. And what it does is it will, in my case, and this is kind of showing you two things at one time, is I have already preset templates, and I'll go through a little bit later how I set this all up. But I have a new residential listing. Or I'm sorry, I don't want to use I wanted to use a sale purchase as though I'm writing an offer. And then we would go in and save. And what this does is it pulls in all the information, both from my template and then also from the listing agent and what she's populated into it. And as though I'm writing up an offer for Justin Smith, which is a fictional character for this purpose. Let's get out of that. Now it pulls us into the transaction. And so the first step usually is pulling in and identifying who everyone is. Obviously my buyer is Justin Smith. Oops, last name. One thing you'll notice is that you can quickly go to the next frame just by hitting tab. So tab is a useful thing that when you're in zip forms to go quickly instead of having to take your cursor to each one. Once you type in Justin, if you hit tab, it goes to the next one, goes to the next one. And especially filling in a contract where you want to make sure that you cover every open piece of the contract. It's really important, in my opinion, to hit tab versus scrolling down and then clicking the next box that you see, because you may have missed something really simple in there.
Do you want questions at the end or during?
You can ask questions during. In fact, I prefer during because otherwise I'll have to go backwards through this.
So enter middle name or anything for that matter that there's a blank. Would you put not applicable or a blank or leave it blank?
I would leave it blank in this situation because this is just the contact information of them. A lot of people, when you're putting in their legal name or what they want the deed or contract in the name of, then you're probably going to use middle names. But a lot of people don't sign with middle names, so you really put in whatever they are preferring. But whatever you put in here, like if I put 3 X's, then it's going to say Justin 3X Smith. So in this situation, I leave those type of things blank.
But on any OREA form, how would you deal with a blank?
Otherwise, I usually am putting it in with none or not applicable, or sometimes a bunch of X's, just to make sure that it's clear that I have touched that section and that there hasn't been an oversight of just leaving it blank because I forgot to even fill that portion in.
And then one last question. If on this form here, they're either a corporation or a trust, does that change anything as to what's written in here?
Yeah, you usually are writing in Justin Smith and then putting something in like this saying trustee.
I see. Thank you.
So that's how I would, so yeah, unfortunately they don't have, in these type of situations, there might be the option of adding some, but I don't think so. Adding in like a line. But that's how you kind of get through those sections. Great questions. So in this situation, we'll just say Justin Smith is a trustee, and then we're going to go to the actual documents. In this situation, because I pulled in my template, it's auto-populating how I set my particular template up. I have documents that I put in a file that are before the offer, which is the Oregon Real Estate Agency disclosure pamphlet, the disclosed limited agency agreement for buyers, and the buyer agency representation agreement. That reminds me of, these are the things that I want to get in my client's hands, have them sign these things before we even write up a contract. It's important as real estate agents that upon our first interaction with them, that we're providing them at the very least this pamphlet, the Oregon Real Estate Agency disclosure pamphlet, which is that document that is 3 pages long. The question, going back to Don's question as far as e-sign, I'm going to go into that real quick. Let's just go ahead and say we're going to e-sign this document. What I like about what DocuSign does in this particular situation, oops, actually I want to go here. Sign. Is I've got the signing service you can set up with DocuSign, digital ink in these situations. Okay, so I do still have the option of using digital ink. Or what was the other one you call it? You said it was e-sign?
Well, that's digital ink is e-sign for zip forms.
Gotcha. So digital ink is I believe it comes with zip forms. So is there an additional cost to using digital ink?
Yes, there is now, and it's digital ink 2.0 is what they're using from what I was looking at, and it's about, you can buy individual signatures. In other words, you can buy what they call credits, or you pay an annual fee, and I think it was $74 or $80, something like that.
Okay.
For an annual fee, but you had to pay for it.
Okay. So the thing I like about, we'll just say we're going to sign the buyer representation agreement. That's going to need my signature and it's going to need the client's signature. So here the document is, it's in there. And, whoops, I got to move up here so that I can say next. Sometimes the, you can't see this, but the little screen that I have of seeing your guys' faces sometimes covers buttons that I need to push. So I'm then pushing the next button, which makes me log into my DocuSign. And then what's nice is in this situation, you can choose the clients. Obviously, you have to have an email address for them in order to choose them. So we'll just say Justin.Smith. I'm going to put a bunch of numbers so that it's not a real one, at gmail.com. Maybe I used too many. Okay, it looks like I've got to go back and edit Justin. So I'm going to go back to the parties, edit Justin and put in an email for him, Justin Smith. Oh, that's what it was. Had a 7 at the end. Okay, save that. Is that not a valid email address? Here, I'll just type in my own. Why is it not letting this work? Erion, that is a valid email address. Okay.
Does it need to match the one on the first page? Like, so on this page, if you have yours, does it need to match that?
I don't think so. That's why I'm, or maybe it's because I've already used that in my, Let's try and go in again. I'm really sorry about this, guys. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here.
I don't remember there being a 14 in your email address.
Yeah.
Is there?
Let's go into this training example one, because I know that that one has some correct stuff. I've used this one before. Okay, let's see if we can get through this. So let's say we're having a residential sale agreement. We're going to sign this form. We go to next. We're going to use Shannon as our listing agent. And
Run, Gilmer. Run, Gilmer.
all right. We'll take Shannon out of this because I don't want to accidentally send her an email. So the thing when you're doing signings with this, what I like about this is that if I want to, I can send this to both my buyers at the same time, and then it will go to me, or I can send it to myself first and have my buyers receive it second. See how I did that? I make myself the signer number one, and I make the buyer signers number two in any particular order. Like one could sign before the other. Or if they particularly want one of their buyers to see it first, then you can make it 1, 2, 3 if you wanted to, like that. I prefer to do it most often like this because I don't know who's the busier person or who will get to their email first, and I don't want it to delay it getting to them. And then going again to what I like about DocuSign versus other programs that I've seen is that it also helps auto-populate all the documents with the signatures in the right places. And so immediately, I don't have to drag and drop all these signatures over here to each particular spot. See how that's already done for me? The buyers are in there, go to the bottom of the page, the buyer's initials are in the right place, the date they sign is, and on every single page, it's basically already completed. So that'll save you 20 to 30 minutes each time, because sometimes that can be a lengthy process by having to drag and drop initials, signatures, and such into every single document.
You could also miss one too, I think.
What's that?
You could probably miss one with the other.
Yeah, and if you miss one initial, then the principal broker sends it back to you. You've got to go through the process again of getting that initial in that right spot. So yeah, it does. It helps you to not miss those type of things. And then I would hit send and show you, but I don't want this to go out to somebody's email that is not. So do you know if eSign does that? Does it auto-populate here?
I don't know. We use the cloud. I'm sorry, I can't remember where we store our documents.
SkySlope.
SkySlope is where I've seen people have the signature that they use in SkySlope, which you have to drag and drop
Yes.
the signatures. And I don't know about this one,
Yeah.
For e-signature. I don't know.
Yeah. I've found and I've heard from other agents that have used both DocuSign and eSign that DocuSign is the preferred way to go, even though it does cost you a little bit more. All right. So does that answer your question, Don?
Yes, it does. I appreciate that.
Okay. Now, did you want to go further into your question about the story problems, or did we pretty much get that covered as far as what you're doing?
Oh, no, you did fine. I just had a quick question because I was using the MLS and I pulled a house, to write the offer. And so I just want to make sure it was all right to use it. I'm not going to send it to anybody, but, and then how do you want it? Do you want it sent to you or printed out, PDF, or how do you want that done?
Actually, what I prefer you do is even send it to me through e-signature so that I can see what the buyer would receive as though I'm the buyer and have me sign it and go through and make sure that you put all the signatures in the right spots.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool.
Does that mean that you should be number one?
That would...
He is number one.
Yeah, I mean, actually, and sometimes when I do signings, I do make myself as the buyer's agent number one to go in there and put in any additional initials or maybe a signature or a change if I need to the contract or to an addendum before it goes to the buyers. Usually you're not changing if a document is sent to you that already has signatures on it. Obviously you can't go and make any changes before you send it to your buyer. You can only create addendums beyond that could potentially change the addendum or change the contract.
Right.
Just a general question. I hope it's not too trivial for everyone. And that is, I suspect that when you send something like this to a client, you email them that you've sent it. Mm-hmm. How aggressively do you pursue their signature? Is it
what I actually
24 hours or?
Yeah, I mean, usually they're the ones that have initiated that they want you to create a contract for them, right? So unless it's like the buyer agency, or I'm sorry, the buyer agency agreement, trying to get them to sign on with you as a buyer agent, then yeah, I would usually give them 24 hours and then follow up again and say, hey, haven't seen your signatures. I just wanted to see where we're at on things. It really depends on the situation and how you've communicated your expectations of how soon they should sign it.
Oh, that was a question, Trevor. Now, when they do the DocuSign and they sign everything, it comes back to you that it's signed, or how does that work?
Yes, it will. It will go back to every single party that's involved with it. You being one of them, because you initiated it. It will come back to you in an email, like literally seconds after they have signed it. An email will go to you that says, not only have they signed it, but here is attached the document that has been signed. Or it might even have a link that shows you, actually, let me go into my email real quick. There we go. So when something is completed, this is what it looks like on the other side, is that you'll receive an email will come to you either from the agent, like in this situation, Berkshire Hathaway did a DocuSign and then they forwarded it, and there's where you can click there and then you can go and get those documents. In this situation where I sent Eddie a contract, actually, let me go show block content. That's what it looks like. It's from me. I was the one that had asked Eddie to sign something, and then I could go in and I could click here and review the document. That's how it works. All right. So,
Thank you.
yeah, sure. So now I want to talk about templates in zip forms. I'm going to share with you a video. We're going to watch a little bit of a video together. Does everybody see this making sense of templates?
Yes.
All right, so it starts at 2 minutes and 4 seconds. There was a lot of little stuff before that, but we're going to watch this together. I'll turn up the volume and we'll just watch this together.
Let's begin by creating a sample template for our residential purchase transactions. Ensure that you are located on the Templates tab. This is the third tab from the extreme left. From here, you are ready to create your new template. Click New. From here, your new template launchpad will appear. You can click the template type that is most pertinent. In this case, let's choose New Purchase or Offer, and that will launch you into your template information window. Now it is time to enter the necessary information into your template information window. First, enter your template name. We will call this template Purchase Residential. The name given to your template should reflect the forms housed within it, thereby allowing you to easily identify it whenever you want to add it to any of your transactions. Next, enter your template's property type, in this case, residential. Next, select the scope of your template. That is, who is able to view and access or apply this particular template you are creating. Now, you can choose an auto apply option. The option you select here determines to what transactions your template will or will not be automatically applied once you have created the transaction. Finally, you can also choose Select Template to apply another template to the template you are creating. This can save you additional time if you know that the second template contains information or forms that would be pertinent to the one that you are currently creating. For example, you may choose to add one of your previously created checklist templates to the template you are creating. We will revisit the topic of checklist templates momentarily. When you are finished creating your template, be sure that you click the Save button. Now that you have created and saved your new template for purchase residential transactions, it is time to add documents and other applicable items to it. You may also make a few time-saving entries for one or more of the documents you wish to add. This means that you won't have to fill in certain pieces of information when the documents are added to the transaction. Now that you have created and saved your new template for purchase residential transactions, it is time to add documents and other applicable items to it. You may also make a few time-saving entries for one or more.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. Stop the share on this, and then I'm going to go back over to, so that kind of gives you the overview. And again, what I like about what ZipForms does, as well as a lot of the other systems that we use, is it you can kind of go at a self-pace with a lot of these videos. Is sometimes it's like that video really goes quickly, a lot quicker than I would be able to teach it to somebody. And I can't teach ZipForms to 45 agents that come on. So we tend to make sure that you know which video to go and find, and then kind of learn the process, and then come back and ask us questions as far as, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Is I'm going to share with you how I do it in my particular situation with the templates that I have created. So I'm going to share.
What I found a little bit helpful was I have ZipForms up in one part of it, and then the video, and then I go back and forth and do what they're showing.
Yeah.
That kind of helps.
Yep. Some people actually even, I don't know if you ever have put up two screens with your laptop. Sometimes I know Kevin out of our Newburgh office, he has two screens up so that he can watch a video on one screen while he's working on the other screen. And I know that's possible with a lot of laptops if you connect it up. So going into my templates, I basically set up two different types of templates that I use on a regular basis. And one is for residential sale purchase, and one is for a new residential listing. Which would you guys prefer to go inside?
How about the purchase?
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, starting out in your career, you're probably going to do more purchases than you'll have listings, but ultimately the goal in real estate, listings are leverage. So you do want to have more listings because it'll create more buyers.
Right.
So the way that I've set this up, this was after some time and energy put into this. You don't have to use folders, but folders are an option. I chose to use folders in the way that I wanted to have a folder that basically says before the offer, this is what I need to get to my clients. While I'm writing the offer, this is what I need to have in the purchase and sale contract, as well as other addendums that I might end up using. And then I have another folder that's if it applies, you ought to throw these into it as well. And then the rest of them that are outside of these folders are all documents that basically are very likely to be used, but not always. And so as I go through a transaction, then I basically will toss these, because you always have the option of deleting from a folder a document that you're not using. So it's nice to have kind of everything that I normally use in a file ready for me. And then if I realize, hey, you know what, we're not going to write a buyer counteroffer to this because we put forth the offer, they counteroffered, and then we accepted. So a buyer's counteroffer is not going to be needed in that situation. So then I would basically go in here and I would delete it once I'm actually in that. But right now we're talking about templates, and templates are basically getting us prepared for everything. So in my before offer, the three things that I put in there are Oregon Real Estate Agency disclosure pamphlet, the disclosed limited agency agreement for buyers, and the buyer representation agreement. Now what you'll find is anytime you click on one of these documents, is each one of these documents is a number with the Oregon Real Estate Agency.
Like 042 or.
Exactly. Most of them start with a 0. Said it was trying to load. Come on. Loading form. Maybe it's because, maybe I can't open it because it's already.
Is it fair to say, Trevor, that just about any form that could be needed is on zip forms?
Yes and no. We do have additional addendums that our office uses specifically, especially on the coast,
Okay.
regarding mold and other things. Those forms you'll be able to find in your SkySlope. Once you're with our office, they're in SkySlope. And what I do is I would download them to my desktop and then put them, you can actually add those to your templates as well. So you could say, hey, I want to add a document over here. And you can either browse for it in our forms, or you can browse for it on your desktop or in your files.
Okay.
You can add it to that as well. So to give an example of that, actually, a document that I probably ought to add to my template is one that I use on a regular basis. So I'm going to go and pull it out of my documents. So when I am working with Carol, there are a few documents that I like to also include, which is the buyer service pledge, the home buying process.
These are more informational to a client.
Yep. But there are things that I would want to send to them with these documents. Not necessarily have them sign the home buying process form, but at least it'll educate them, and it'll be something that they can hold on to and go back and find every time. I'm going to add those two. Go ahead.
I do believe in the under promise, over deliver philosophy. If I wanted to, let's say, add something to a pledge, that goes, I get your permission, or I add it and then send it to you so you can see how I have fitted in the vernacular that I've used.
You're an independent contractor, so you can add documents like I have in this situation. This is a buyer service pledge exclusive to me as a real estate agent. I pass this out to other agents, and other agents are choosing to use it.
I got it.
But yeah.
But if I wanted to add a number 13, I
Yeah.
need to get somebody's approval, correct?
Yes and no. I think it'd be a good idea as a newer agent to get our approval on things like that. But as you progress in your career and realize, hey, I know what I'm doing, and to add in that, hey, I'm going to help you also, whatever item number 13 is going to be. I would say early in your career, you do want to ask permission, but you don't have to ask permission as an independent broker. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very wise to ask questions along the way. One thing that I always do is anything that's added to the like as I've added this, I always have disclaimers on it that basically it also explains that I'm not replacing the Oregon Real Estate Agency disclosure pamphlet. This doesn't replace it, but it does add to it. Because we want to make sure that we're not replacing documents that are standard use in our industry and in our state.
But the Oregon disclosure pamphlet,
Go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I said the Oregon disclosure pamphlet, we want to get that in front of them as soon as possible, correct?
Yep, upon your first connection with them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's actually a good thing to say is say, hey, it sounds like you've met with a couple other agents. Has anybody given you this pamphlet yet? And if they say no, then you say, well, according to real estate agency laws, we're supposed to give this to you upon our first connection with you. I actually have links to that kind of stuff, and also the buyer, what is it called, in my email, in the bottom of my email, so that, you know, officially the first time I meet them in person, I'm going to hand them a copy. But in the meantime, I'm going to also make sure that they are aware of, what is it called? The Oregon Real Estate Agency disclosure pamphlet and the Oregon buyer and seller advisories. Those are the two links that I have in my email signature that goes out to every single person that I send an email to. So essentially that is upon my first contact with people, but it really is my responsibility to hand them that document the first time that we meet and make sure that they've had an opportunity to read it.
Yeah, because they may not click on there and read it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So going back to zip forms. So this is, again, going to, this is upon the first connection. Oops. Back to list. You're working in residential sale purchase. Okay. So before offer, now I've got those 5 documents in there.
Who you just added.
I added 2 in there. Now, when I write the offer, the documents that I put in there is the residential sale agreement and the professional inspection addendum. Those are the 2 that I use most often in writing an offer. And those are really the only 2 that I have to have with an offer. And that's why I put in the 3rd folder, if they apply. Because as you go through the contract, it might be a lead-based paint home, there might be an HOA, there might be a wood stove, or you might need to occupy after closing. So those are, I use these forms fairly often depending on the situation or the age or style of the home, or if it's in an HOA or not. So this is how I've organized myself. You may choose to organize yourself a completely different way.
On the lead pamphlet, it's one of the ones I got wrong on the test.
Mm-hmm.
It's not required by state law, just federal law in Oregon?
That's a great question. I don't remember. I believe it's federal law that is required.
And that's for 1979 or earlier only?
That is for, I always get mixed up if it's 79 or 78. Let me go back and look.
Well, December 78. I hope my questions are not taking you off the target that you have.
Oh, fine.
No, these are good questions. But I think Oregon follows the federal law on that, if I remember right.
I believe you guys are correct.
Did you get it? What did you put on your test, Larry? Did you get it wrong?
I put down that it was required by the state.
Was both actually? Did they? Was that an option?
Well, there was a total of 4 of them that were, you were
Yeah.
supposed to exclude the one that was not applicable as it being from the state. And one of them was the disclosure form. So they listed 3 that I absolutely knew, but I've been a painter for 40 years. So we have to give that to every single customer, no matter what. You know, if their home was built before 79. So I automatically said, God, that's got to be it. And I forgot which one I marked off, but I marked one of the other ones that I said, okay, well, maybe that's not required.
See, we're required to give that disclosure in Oregon. So it
On
follows.
homes built before 79 or for everybody?
I
Or
think it's
yeah,
before 78.
built prior to 1978. There it is, right on the top of the document.
Okay.
Part of every
See that?
for the home.
And that's an Oregon form. So
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yep. All right. Well, do you guys have any questions about the templates or how you set them up and how they work?
any possible way of you sending the folder content to us?
Yeah, I could actually.
I don't expect that yet.
Yeah.
No, these are all good things. This is actually excellent.
Great.
And if you, Don, find a reason why e-sign would be better than DocuSign, please let me know. But in the buying and selling of my own homes, I've used DocuSign and found it to be very prompting and extremely thorough, where I don't think I ever missed a signature. And if I did, they let me know right away that it wasn't complete.
Mm-hmm.
I think e-sign, you have to designate where you want the signatures. I think that, if I remember going through some of it, obviously there's a pretty good price difference, and there's a reason for that.
Usually.
You know,
I think it's a bonus on both the user interface and the client's interface.
Right.
As well. Is sometimes I've seen documents come back that don't look right, and the agent is like frustrated because the client doesn't know how to use the e-sign part of it, whereas DocuSign is basically doesn't allow the client to do certain things to the document.
And since clients are not familiar with, let's say, this process,
Right.
better to send them to a tutorial, walk them through it, or just tell them it's self-explanatory and have confidence? What's really the best way to either hold their hand or not?
With DocuSign, it's really easy to just send it to them, and it is pretty self-explanatory. I've never had clients. I mean, I've been using DocuSign for probably 10 plus years.
Uh-huh.
And I've never had a client not be able to. I've had clients that have not been able to download it on their phone, but then when they get home, they're able to figure out how to do it on their laptop or whatnot. But that's really the only issues that I've had. Other than that, everybody's been quickly, they'll go and sign stuff. I do always make sure that I explain it. It's so easy to sign. It's almost too easy to sign that sometimes clients put so much faith in you as the realtor that they don't read through things. And so I really have a pretty candid conversation that hey, DocuSign is almost too easy to use, and I want to make sure you understand that everything you sign is though you are legally signing it.
right.
With your written signature, and never sign a contract until you've read it. And so I kind of go through that, especially with younger folks. I think they're a little bit more trusting because they never have had to write out or sign checks. All they use is their debit card and stuff like that. And so they don't put as much what's the word I'm looking for? As much umption into
Credibility.
Yeah, credibility into their signature. That's a great word. So,
Are there tutorials for all the zip forms?
Yes.
Like YouTube? Yeah. Yes.
yeah, You can,
Right.
they've got a massive library.
It's a lot, and I tell you, it takes a while to go through it, but it's definitely very good.
Well, the encouraging part is the more that I have to write up these things, the sharper I'll get.
Yeah.
Now, the question I had real quick, Trevor, is in zip forms. Now, I thought when I was with Taylor that we had to go to the MLS to get the listing forms.
You do and you don't or I'm sorry, maybe for on the coast that you do go to the MLS to get those forms. I know that our MLS, let me go back here real quick. I know with our MLS, let me get back to the dashboard. If I go into view forms, the library for like RMLS has been pulled into here. But I don't know if Flex pulls their documents directly into zip forms or not. That would be a question. Actually, I can probably get that answered for you fairly quickly. But if you don't see them under your menu and it's not an option, then yes, you probably have to go to Flex and put them down as a PDF and then pull them in as documents. I think they're more easily filled out through the Flex system than pulling them in here and then filling them out.
I know, now this was a long time ago, the MLS at both Washington and California, everything was done through the MLS, the listing and also the purchase and sale agreement. So you did everything right there and went through the whole process. But that was back before you had DocuSign and stuff. You had to fax stuff back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to get the double or sometimes triplicate forms and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys, any other questions?
I do. I know it's trivial, but what do you say to a colleague when they're going to a showing? I mean, like I know, is it break a leg? Is it back some ink? What is it? What's protocol on that?
I'm usually, hey, good luck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck is good enough. Okay.
Yep.
So, Trevor, I don't know if the stat is correct, but that 80+% of people that go into real estate, I'm going to use the word fail. I don't know what exactly that means within the first 3 to 5 years, I think it said.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know whether I'm following the right two? Like you said, if I see somebody doing something right, but how do I only want to do what 2 of those 10 people are doing.
I know that you'll learn slightly different practices by hanging around or being around other agents or maybe co-listing a property with somebody. You're going to pick up things and stuff like that, but always feel free to come back to us as the experts and to us as here's how we do it at Coldwell Banker, because even in classes where I've allowed top agents in our office to teach a class, we will sometimes argue in the way that we would do things. Like I have an agent that has been in the business for 12 years. And when she goes through a contract, she leaves things blank. That really bothers me, but she feels like if I fill everything out, it clutters up the contract too much. So that was just a difference of opinion. My way I feel is more right, but her way is not necessarily wrong. It doesn't, her contracts come in, she gets deals done. It's not necessarily that she's doing things wrong. She's doing things differently and maybe not the way that I would do them, but she's an independent contractor. She can choose to do that. And so, yeah, so sometimes there are different ways to slice the apple. They're not always wrong, but they are different ways.
What title company do we like to use here in Lincoln City for the office? Do you know?
What type of what?
Title company.
There really is only one. From my
I guess that's true.
There's only one right now in Lincoln City. So you really are limited to that option. Although I've seen a lot of agents that don't like that option and they choose to work with title companies outside of Lincoln City. So yeah, so there are options, but you don't have the convenience of having them right there in Lincoln City.
Who chooses the title company?
It really is legally, it's the buyer's choice, but in the listing, you'll find that listing agents put in preferred title company. And so it's negotiable. It's part of the negotiations of the contract. Is it something that I would quibble over if the listing agent is absolutely insistent? Maybe there's a reason behind that, because maybe their purchase is also going to be at that title company and it'll make them close in consecutive days. So sometimes it's a conversation as to, are you opposed to using another title company? Those are questions that I ask. Some agents are very forthright with that information, and some are like, choose whoever you want. We're going to counter offer, and it'll go back to Western Title, or it'll go back to First American. And that's only if the buyer accepts it. So they all seem to have about the same cost to them, and I think they're regulated by the state to where you're not going to get one title company that is an exorbitant, costlier option. And insurance is, I think, regulated somewhat as well. So
my last question for today, and I thank you for your time, and Don for your contributions as well. It's all been, I'll call it music to my ears. How often do we have coffee together?
Coffee Talk is every Tuesday. It may cut back in July just because we've been, as you can see, today's class, we've only got 2 people in it. And so we found that some of the classes are not being as well attended. And so we're trying to cut back and make each class a little bit more valuable. So we might be in July, August. Agents get so busy with business that having 8 to 10 classes sometimes is not really the best in everybody's use of time. But usually back in September, October, we'll ramp up again and have even more classes. It's an ebb and flow that we kind of listen to our agents and figure out what is the best way to serve them and what's the best use of our time as your principal brokers. Sometimes people need more one-on-one help. So, yeah.
Trevor, there's a class today for new agents. Would that be good for Larry to attend, or can he attend that one?
Yeah, that's at 2:00, I think.
Yeah, I sent Larry that link to that one as well. So yeah, you're welcome to attend that today.
Great. Thank you. And Don, thanks for looking out for me.
Okay.
Well, these classes will only stay free for a while, Larry. So you gotta either.
I understand. I believe me, I understand. And thank you for putting that shoe to my rear end.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks. Have a great day, both of you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.